Hey everybody, Jamie Kelly here, and you are watching the Otherworldly Fundraising channel. This is one of the videos from the 2024 online fan convention. We had a lot of fun talking to a wide range of people, actors, writers, cosplayers, you name it, about all kinds of topics. We had a great time, and we know that you're going to get a big kick out of it. The 2024 Otherworldly Fundraising season has been for MomBomb, which is a great organization helping mothers and some fathers who are in distress. It's a great charity, and we were more than happy to help them out. So if you would like to give, check out the information down below. And thank you all so very much. And now, on with the show.
We have the wonderful Lindsay Crouse with us here today. How are you doing? Welcome to our live stream.
I'm doing well. I'm still trying to get my computer balanced, but there we go.
Perfect. Amazing. You are so well known. I think Ryan and I will switch back with questions. You're so well known for so many different stage, TV, film. The IMDb is amazing. We love to see it. I've been asking all the guests to start. Do you have a little elevator pitch for yourself that you like to introduce yourself with?
Hi. Don't. I really don't.
That's okay. That's amazing. Well, the other question I ask that I get a lot of giggles from usually is, do you have a boring fact about yourself? So not an interesting one. What is a boring fact you'd like to share with the audience?
Great gardener.
Ooh.
I am very, very involved with my garden. I live in Annisquam, Massachusetts, which is basically Gloucester and Cape Ann. And I just adore gardening. So that might be a kind of dull thing to other people. To me, it's fascinating and endlessly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Constant education.
Yes, that's beautiful. Ryan.
Oh boy.
Question you want to go next?
No pressure, right? No pressure. But first of all, Lindsay, it's great to see you and great to meet you. It's great to have you here with us on Otherworldly Fundraising Day number 3 in 2024. So my first question for you right out of the gate, because I grew up watching this as a youngin'. I grew up in a little-known decade known as the 1990s. Great decade, by the way. Just out of curiosity, what was it like for you working on the Frank Oz film Indian in the Cupboard? What was it like?
I love that story. He was a lot of fun. He was a lot of fun, and I loved plumbing him about all his days with the Muppets. And, he would start saying something to me, and I go, "No, I want to ask you about." Yeah, and that was, one of the great stories to do.
That's wonderful. I've been asking a lot of our entertainment industry guests, how did you get your start? Was it something that you were really passionate about? Did your parents give you a little shove? What was that story like for you?
Nobody gave me a shove, but my father was a man named Russell Crouse, who with his partner Howard Lindsay wrote a lot of wonderful hits, both straight plays and musicals, for the theater on Broadway. So I grew up in a theater family. And that's different from growing up, for instance, in a film family or in Hollywood. There were a lot of famous people in and out of the house, but they were all working. They were really hard working. So there wasn't sort of flashy, here comes so-and-so, or look who walked in the door. It was a very quiet household. My father went to work with his partner, Howard, every day. He left the house in the morning. He came back in the evening for dinner. And then there was that build-up to opening that was very exciting and very tense, because especially at that time, everything rested on the opening night. And what probably Brooks Atkinson, the New York critics, and the New York critics would say, I mean, your entire livelihood, for the next few years was on the line at that opening night. So it was an intellectual house. It was a studious house that I grew up in. It was also a lot of fun. Theater people are a lot of fun. So there were wonderful parties. But again, people were witty and they loved to sing together. The piano in my household had been chosen by my grandfather, whose great friend was Theodore Steinway. And so there was a beautiful Steinway piano in my house. It was played by, evidently, before I was aware of it, Eugene O'Neill told Irving Berlin that he knew the lyrics of every vaudeville song that had ever been written. And Berlin said, I know the tune to every vaudeville song that's ever been written. And all night long, they played that piano. You know, Irving would hunt and peck with one finger, and Eugene would sing. But it was that kind of thing. It was, you know, they played games. They played thinking games. And they just had a good time. A good time. But they were very serious. Howard and my father, who we fondly called Pop, he was a lot older than most fathers. He went to work and, you know, really had to seriously work because everything mattered. You know, it was the way that we were going to keep our house. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. I'm going to put a question up from the audience here. This is a beautiful question from Kristen. How important was it to you portraying an out lesbian on a broadcast television show in the 80s? Talk about breaking barriers.
You know, I was really proud to do it. It made me really happy to do it. There were many aspects of things that I played on film and in television that I felt, damn it, you know, it's really good we're talking about this. And I'm so thrilled to be here. And for me, it was also an education. You know, I learned a lot more about the situation, how difficult it was. Yeah, I was very done that.
That's amazing. Ryan, what do you have next?
Well, for me, I would say when you go into what is known as an audition, what do you do to mentally prepare yourself to get yourself psyched up and ready to go when you're auditioning for a role, whether it's a TV series or a movie or something on stage, something to that effect?
Well, the main thing to me is, what is my own connection to that piece of material? Why is that important for me to have something to say about? Because just to go in and deliver the lines is one thing, but to really invest in it as something that has great value to me, that moves me, that's what I really work on to prepare for an audition. And I really love meeting people in theater and film. I love going to an audition and having a minute to spend. Actually, sometimes I end up talking with the director, and afterwards my agent says, the casting agent said you were in there for very long. That may not be a good thing to do. I said, well, we were having a good time talking. Forgive me, you know? So I love people of the theater. I love people who are in film. They're always interesting. So, you know,
That's
not scared of audition.
That's such a beautiful perspective on auditioning too.
Although I'll tell you a funny story. I was auditioning for a Broadway play, and Mike Nichols was the director. Now I was nervous, and you know, I was saying my lines as I'm walking to the audition. I'm in Times Square, and I walk by a storefront that has this pair of bright red corduroy pants in the window, and I thought, that's it. I'm going to get the audition if I have those pants. He will never forget me. I go in, I buy the pants, I go in some corner of the store and I put them on. I run out, I'm almost late. I walk into the audition, and it was in a Broadway theater. So I'm coming from the back, I'm walking down the aisle, and there's Mike Nichols, who I had known, sitting in a seat. And, you know, I say, hi, he says, hi. I continue walking. He goes, Crouse? I turn around and go, yeah. He says, come here. He says, turn around. I turn around, and he rips this huge tag off the back of my pants. And I said, well, you know, at least you know I cared.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
What color of my pants, I'll tell you that.
That is wonderful. And I think you have such an amazing crossover where you've gotten to do work in theater, in TV, and film. Not every actor gets to do that. What are some of the things that you felt translated well between those mediums? And were there things that really had to change to adjust depending on that medium?
I don't think so, because the films that I did were written for film, and the plays that I did were definitely written for the theater. So I don't think so. Yeah.
That's amazing. There's a theater question in the comment I want to add. Steph says, do you have a favorite play or musical?
That I was in?
I think either that you were in or that you just really like.
Oh, wow. I don't even know how I. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the name of the Irish play I was in. Dancing at Lunasa is a play that I did that I absolutely adored. I could have done that play for years and years on Broadway. I didn't get to do it on Broadway. I did it in a regional theater, but it's one of the plays I love most. And what was really interesting, the first time that I came to a certain point in the play, running in rehearsal, there was this Irish family way in rural Ireland, and they get a radio, which is a huge event. And it's, 1929 or something. And we turned on the radio and began to continue rehearsal. And on the radio came Anything Goes, which was the very first musical that my father wrote. And I thought my hair would stand straight up off my head. I never had an experience like that on stage, where I just felt like, like with electricity running through me. Amazing. That is one of my favorite plays.
That's absolutely beautiful. What do you have for us, Ryan?
Well, we talked about one of your great film appearances that I grew up on, such as Indian in the Cupboard, and who doesn't like Frank Oz and the Muppets? Because the Muppets don't seem to age after 70 plus years on this earth. They still are the same colors. They're still having the same eyes, same smile, same expressions, et cetera, et cetera. But on the TV side of things, what was it like for you working on those 9 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Riot! It was a riot. Oh my goodness! So many funny things happened. The young man who played a love interest of her happened to be a babysitter for my kids. And my kids used to play basketball and soccer in a field in Pacific Palisades, and he would also be there. So I knew him doing that before we were on the show together. And at one point, I don't know, they killed me off, and there was a huge debate whether I was an animated corpse or a zombie, and there'd be different makeup or something. I had a machine on my back that made green blood come out of one thing and red blood come out of another. Really insane. And I had clouded over contact lenses. I was either a reanimated corpse or a zombie. I still don't know what I was. And I had to give this terrifying shot, to this young man. And I said to him, I can't see anything. I'm coming after you with a shot. So I'm going to measure my footsteps. I'm going to reach out my left hand. If I completely miss you, I'll yell cut or something. But if I go after you, if I'm aiming for your eye or something, please just scream. I'm terrified. So I don't think I was a terribly, aggressive or effective zombie. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and what we were just handing a note here, the young actor I believe you were referring to earlier was Mark Blucas, was the one who may have looked after your family.
And the other story I have about that show, I was known as the evil bitch monster of death. And while I was on the show, one morning, very early, I was taking one of my children to the dentist. And I walked in, kind of bleary to this dentist office, and two identical twins behind the counter, who were the receptionists, leaped up and went, "Oh, the evil bitch monster of death," in unison. I thought, where am I? These things don't happen on the East Coast.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. On a similar theme, Kristen is talking about, was Slapshot a really raucous set?
Oh my gosh. Slapshot was fun. Slapshot was crazy. The audition for Slapshot in Manhattan was hysterical because it was a movie that was going to involve hockey skaters. So every out-of-work actor in New York, decided on a dime that they were hockey skaters. And so they all auditioned at Madison Square Garden. There were ambulances lined up in front of Madison Square Garden because they were all, breaking their necks. So we get down to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. All my locations on film are like that. I never get the ones in the Mediterranean or anything. So we're in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and we're going out on the ice, right? I go downstairs. This was the high school hockey rink. And I go to rent a pair of skates because I'd like to be skating with everybody. And I go to rent this pair of skates, and there's a man behind the counter in the high school in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, in the basement. And as I'm there paying for my skates, he says, Crouse. He says, okay, I'm going to ask you a crazy question. Are you the daughter of Russell Crouse? I go, yes. I said, what? How did you know Russell Crouse? He said, I was a child actor, and I auditioned for Life with Father, which was a play that my father wrote. And he said, your father called me personally to tell me that I didn't get the role. And he very gently said to me, can I ask you something? And he said, there was something about the gentleness in your father's voice that I said, okay. He said, was it your idea to audition for this part, or was it something that your parents wanted for you to do? And he said, I told them it was my parents' idea and that I was scared. And my father said, I kind of got that feeling. And he said, I'd like to give you a piece of advice if that would be okay. And this kid said, yeah. He said, your parents love you very, very much, and they want the best for you. You go back to them and you tell them that. You tell them that you're uncomfortable, that maybe this isn't for you. And he said, and I did. And he said, I've done many things in my life, but I was never scared. Oh, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? Hold on.
No, that was a very heartfelt story. We thank you for sharing that with us. There's no doubt about it. Julia, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
I just wanted to say that was beautiful. What a gift. My mic was still off, but what a beautiful gift for him to give to that kid.
Yeah, he was like that.
Amazing. Ryan, what do you have next?
Well, let's see. This whole Wheel of Fortune has got so many different questions on it. Where do we spin it? No, I'm just kidding. So my question is, what has your experience been like doing voiceover work? How much fun is that for you when you're not so much on a stage, but you're in a studio recording voiceover? What is that like?
It depends on the project. Sometimes it's really difficult, and sometimes it's just fabulous. Are you sitting down? I worked for 40 years with a voice coach because I loved character. And I realized that transformation of voice was at the heart of really developing a character. And one of the great voice coaches alive was a woman named Liz Dixon. She coached Mary Martin when she was doing Sound of Music. If Mary couldn't talk in the morning, she'd go into Liz, and Liz would have her on stage by that night. She was amazing. And she not only worked with actors, she also worked with immigrants who wanted to lose accents and actors that wanted to gain accents, but she never lost sight of character. So she knew how to not just teach you an accent, but how that person would speak in the circumstances they were in. She was amazing. She was a taskmaster, but I really couldn't have had the career that I had without her. God bless her.
That's so special. Wow. We are at the half-hour mark, so I want to remind our viewers, please donate. We're at 75%. That's so exciting. We have a couple hours of content left today. Go to that link that's scrolling on the screen. Go to all of our social media. MomBomb is such a wonderful organization helping moms and dads who need that extra support through grants. We still have prizes left, so don't put your donation on anonymous unless you really want it to be anonymous, because then you'll get entered into our awesome sweepstakes. Lindsay is being amazing and spending time with us here today. I have a little bit of a deep cut question. So my dad's favorite TV show ever is Frasier. I'm sure I have seen it so many times through just by osmosis, because it is his favorite show. And in season 9, you were on for a couple episodes as Martin's love interest, I believe. Can you share anything about that? I wouldn't be a good daughter if I didn't bring up that question.
Well, I had the great good fortune of doing an absolutely gorgeous play with John Mahoney and a number of Steppenwolf actors. It was an Irish play. I'm trying to think of it right now. It'll come to me. Of course, it'll come to me tonight. John was wonderful to work with. John was an imp. You know, he had that wonderful quality of just, he didn't know what he was going to do next. He was just charming to work with, lovely. And there were, I think the time that I was able to spend on stage with him, I really cherished, because we were able to develop something. It was a group of Steppenwolf actors. They were all wonderful. And the play, The Weir, W-E-I-R, which means a trap. Extraordinary Irish play. Really one of the great experiences I've ever had on stage. And partly because of John. It was just marvelous, very present, very alive, very relaxed. It was great. He refused to do an Irish accent for the play. And he got called out by the critics. And within 24 hours, he had an Irish accent. We all teased him. We're like, John, this is an Irish play, darling. You got to have the accent. Come on.
That's phenomenal. Let's see, Ryan, you're up.
Well, my family's part Irish, so we guess we got a little bit of the look of the Irish. So with that, I know, right? I know, go green. With that being said, is there an actor or actress that you have never worked with that you would love to work alongside of at some point in your career?
Oh, God. I think Maggie Smith was one of my very, very, very favorite actresses. I would love to have worked with Maggie. I would have loved to have worked with Zoe Caldwell, an actress now. Oh, there's so many now. I mean, there's so, many more parts for women. But I mean, one thing I would say, at the age that I am, and I'm over 70, there is very, 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 very little written for actresses to do in this country. In England, they write for them, they put them in all their media, they knight them, they thank them, they love them. But here, we don't really know what to do. And it's really sad. Yeah, who would I love to work with? God, I mean, everybody. Truly. I love it.
Nothing wrong with the generic answer. It's completely fine. Plus, there's a lot of great Hollywood, great talents out there that should be worked with. So I can understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've had such a wonderful array of genres that you've gotten to work in. Do you have a genre that you find yourself consistently drawn to, or do you more care project to project?
I work project to project. I love the theater. I will always love the theater. Because it's incredibly challenging. It's so challenging. And because it's never the same. And because if you get a chance to work on a play with really fine actors over a real period of time, the growth is incredible. And that's exciting. And to feel an audience so close to you, to feel the mood of the theater, to adjust to the mood of the theater, to be taught by an audience. Wow, you need to take a little bit more time here. You need to move it along. They're on top of you. It's an education. It's an education. I mean, film is wonderful, but it's a very different process. It's very piecemeal. You really hope that you're stringing all the pearls together. Because very often, you're shooting the end of the film before the beginning of the film or whatever, and you're going, as you get through the rest of the film, you're going like, oh, geez, if I'd known I was going to do this, maybe, you get another chance on stage to develop it. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of film, we have a question from the comments. Was filming Places in the Heart difficult on location?
No, it was fabulous. Oh, our wonderful set designer built a house, a rundown house out in the boonies. And I think Robert was one of the great directors I ever had, loving and perceptive and kind and really in it with you. Nestor Almendros was an incredible cinematographer, and Sally Field was wonderful to work with. Everyone. It was a story that was very personal to the director. And he said, with Kramer versus Kramer, he said he thought he knew everything about filmmaking. The next film he made, which shall not be mentioned, he said he realized he didn't know anything about filmmaking. So he said, I've written this story. It's highly personal to me, and I'm going to get it right. So he said, I'm really sorry if I film something again, if I do another take, whatever, because I'm going to get this right. This is such an important film to me. And we would have died for him. We would have done anything for him. And it was wonderful. I have a little story about it, if you have a minute. It was set in the Depression. So we all wore these clothes from, the Deep South in the Depression. And he said to us, we're paying you enough. And we all went, ha ha. He said, why don't you wear the clothes off the stage? So when you go home, wear the clothes, just stay in it. All right. So I decided to go to a local church, which had been a church that he had gone to when he was young. And it was a real revivalist church, a little church way, way out in the boonies. And there was a wonderful woman who used to rock back and forth, and they'd always hand the service over to her, and she'd have a little mic, and she'd go, I got no teeth. My hair's falling out my feet. I can hardly walk, but I got Jesus, and she'd go into her thing. Well, there was always a coffee hour after church, and I would go to the coffee hour in my outfit from the set. So when the film was done, and I went to my last day at the church, last Sunday at the church, the ladies in the church gave me 3 bags, 2 bags of food, and 1 bag of clothes, because they thought that I was a poor lady who was still wearing the clothes, probably that were my mother's from the Depression, and they were all the clothes from the set. So I redistributed the canned goods elsewhere, but I couldn't give away the clothes because I thought they'll know. I brought them back with me, and damn it, I wore those clothes. I've never been so touched by anything in my life. So
wow. That is so touching. That's a wonderful story. Ryan, what do you have for Lindsay?
What would you say are some of your favorite movies and why? And this is some of the movies that are outside of the stuff that you've taken part in.
My favorite. Oh, wow. Now that's a much bigger question. Well, I have to say one of the favorite movies I have that I was in is The Verdict. It's an extraordinary film. And that was an extraordinary director. And of course, my co-star wasn't so shabby either. Let me see. God, there's so many. I'm old-fashioned. To Kill a Mockingbird. I think All the President's Men was a great film. Oh God, so many. When you have a question like this put to you, suddenly you go like, I never saw a film in my life. It just, okay. You've got to give me a sec. Ask me another question, then it's going to come.
Totally.
No worries. I know it's a bit of a broad question because it could go a million different directions for sure. But yeah, that's fine. Feel free to play the Jeopardy theme song in the back of your mind as we're thinking about this, Julia.
Well, so going back to, I know we have a lot of theater lovers in our audience, and I love to hear actors talk about this. Have you ever had a moment where you've been on stage and forgotten your lines, and how did you recover?
Oh my God, yes. One of them I was in a play in Chicago written by Lanford Wilson. And I was downstage center with a spotlight on me. And sometimes this happens to you. Sometimes if you're really in it and you're really running, it's almost as if your brain goes, you're not acting anymore. This is life. And as in life, you don't know what you're going to say next. And suddenly that experience starts to come and the actor takes over and goes, you can panic now, rather than, oh, this is just like life. Let me just take a sec. I turned up stage and I went, help, help. And the audience couldn't hear me. And one of my fellow actors stepped in and we started a conversation. We got the playback where it was. And the only other time I remember, it was recently in a play called Mornings at 7. And I was storming across the stage, really enraged at the wonderful actor playing my husband. And I think what took over was he looked hurt. Different things happen in the theater on different nights. And I think I was so shocked. Somehow my whole body registered that I had actually gotten to him. And the lines continue to hammer at him, but I'd gotten to him. So I think that my heart and my mind got conflicted for a moment, that in life I would have gone, oh, honey. But the lions were some brutal thing. So I honored what was happening. And I said the brutal line like that, like as if I didn't want to. And I think that actors often judge themselves for things like that. But I think that directors would say that was a gift to everybody in the theater. We get caught out. We steamroll and then suddenly we're in tears, or we're, on the floor, or we're asking forgiveness. And you're bound by the script to say certain things, but what you're shooting through. I mean, I try to teach this to actors all the time. Acting is not about acting out the line, has nothing to do with it. It's about underneath the line, what you're trying to do. We all know, the hysterically funny scene that's really the tragic scene. We all know, the harsh scene that's really the love scene. So that's a good playwright. You don't act out the line. You try to find out what's going on, because the whole dilemma of being human is we don't say what we mean. I always say we marry the person that we find that we say what we mean most to. That's how.
Yes, absolutely. We have another comment or another question. You did Pinter, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, on Broadway with Roundabout. What was that like?
I loved doing Pinter, because Pinter, in light of what I was just saying, was someone that really gives an actor a go. I mean, you face the script and you go, oh my God, these are the most horrible people in the world. How am I going to get through this? But in fact, like any good playwright, the plays are about a tremendous human longing and rage and desire to be free, to be fully expressed, to get out of jail, so these are very, very dramatic plays. And I think you need a good director, someone that will really let you fish around and find what it is you think is really happening in the scene, what it is your job is to do, what's the real human dilemma in it. And then Pinter really comes to life. If you get stuck in the kind of hell, you know, is Pinter, he's not gonna, it's just gonna be a really difficult evening. They're not joyful characters to play, but they are human. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing with all of our audience questions. We have a little over 10 minutes left. I want to remind everyone to donate. The donation link will stay up a little bit longer once our weekend is over. And you can always go back on YouTube to watch any of the live streams you might have missed. Let's see, Ryan, you're up. Do you have a question next?
If someone wants to pursue this magical world known as acting, what pieces of advice would you offer that individual?
Well, grab your courage, to the sticking point, as Shakespeare would say. But here's what I would say. You are going to have to do a profound self-examination with every play you do, because what you are bringing to your art is your life. If you are unwilling to do that, afraid to do that, if you think that creating a character is a way to escape or to compensate, or that you're not enough, that you want to hide, the theater is not for you. It's a profession of exposing the toughest, most vulnerable aspects of being alive. It is glorious when it happens, and I can tell you it's not related to the ego in any way, because when it happens, you almost feel like it's shooting through you like a star. You've set up the proper circumstances. You've been willing to just keep playing in action, whether the words were with you or against you, whether the audience is on it, whatever. You are doing that thing you said you were going to do. And suddenly something just shoots through you. And everyone in the audience knows it. Everyone on stage knows it. And you just all feel thankful that you're there. And that's a great experience, really worth having. It requires real study. You can't just, put on a costume and create an accent and say I'm an actor. You can't. And if you do, you may get really hurt, because you aren't going to get there. You have to study, and it's an art. It's an art like any other art. You have to practice. But it's a very rewarding one. It's tough, though. And I especially want to say to the women, really tough.
Definitely. So speaking of the industry in general, do you have any behind the scenes roles, as in director or writer, that you maybe haven't gotten to step into yet, but that you would still like to? Or do you prefer to just be the actor? How do you feel about that?
I prefer to be the actor. I'm a teacher. I studied Buddhism for many, many years, and I teach Buddhism. I preach in our local church. I am writing now. It is not something that I wanted to do or that I was planning to do. But one of the difficulties about being an actor over 70 and a woman, very little written. So, yeah. But, life isn't straightforward. And there may be a reason why, this is happening. So I'm bowing. And I would say to anyone out there who wants to be an actor, go right ahead. Make sure you find a good teacher. Make sure you really apply yourself. It's important, because I think that our actors are, the priesthood of our civilization.
That's amazing. Yeah. Ryan, what do you have?
Well, many years ago, there was this piece of music that I heard, and it told us all we got to do sometimes is take a look. It's in a book. So I'm just curious, what are some of your favorite books and why?
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I am a huge reader. Oh my God. I mean, I don't know. You probably can't see behind me. My house is just nothing but bookshelves. Oh, 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 oh. I can't even think right now. Who am I reading right now? Oh, hang on one sec.
No worries. She's got an entire library in her studio, so it's kind of like the scene from Beauty and the Beast where she walks in, the Beast gives her that library full of books, and she says, "This is incredible." Like, you know what I mean? You remember that scene, Julia? The little indie film Beauty and the Beast came out 30-some years ago.
Yes, I'm always here for bookshelves and too many books.
Who isn't? Honestly.
I read a book a week. I adore reading. So I read nature books. I don't read mysteries. Read a lot of history. This year I read this author, Mark Forsyth. Whoops, there you go. It's called The Etymologicon. It's about the origin of words, which is one of my favorite subjects. It's something I would like to do a theater piece about. The origin of words is just super and fantastic. I'm right now reading a book about the Civil War, about the origins of the Civil War. But I'll read about, well, history and historical fiction are big for me. I guess because they stimulate all the drama that I love, the things that have happened through the years with leaders, queens, kings, peasants, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Novels. As I said, I studied Buddhism for a long time. I read a lot about religions of various kinds. Yeah, I'm a huge reader. A lot of poetry. I like to read poetry. So right now I'm thinking of doing something about trees, doing an evening about trees, the life of trees. Yeah. I'm thinking of doing it with music. I'm thinking of doing things about very early myths in human history, and why those myths have remained in our culture for years and years and years and years, because basically those are the plays. So things like that I'm turning towards now. It will probably take me a year or so to formulate what I want to do with them. But I have to say it's comforting, because there isn't work. It's just not, we're just not written for. So I'm going to see what, I thought to myself, well, what do you do when you do nothing but complain? You have to do something, right? I mean, who am I looking to fix this? Like, there's nobody behind me. So yeah, I'll put my hand.
Well, the beauty part of that is we didn't have to play the Jeopardy theme song like we did for that movies question earlier on in this program. But at least when I mentioned the fabulous song of Reading Rainbow, all we got to do is take a look. It's in a book. We got a library full of answers for this. So great. We're all doing our job very well here in the studio, Julia. We're killing it today. Everybody in the studio is doing a great job.
Yes, we have such a wonderful team. And I love that you share that, Lindsay. I think you have every right to complain. And I also love that you're facing it head on. I know that's so inspirational. And I know that our audience and all of us here will be right behind you, backing you up.
Thank you.
We do just have a couple minutes. I want to remind everyone, please donate. It's been such an amazing weekend. Kristen, our fearless leader, works so hard to get so many amazing guests, and the donations have been so lovely. The comments have been so lovely. I always like to make sure that our guests have a chance. Is there any upcoming projects, any places people should follow you, anything like that you want to share? I want to make sure that our audience and our fans can stay connected.
That's so sweet of you. I really don't know. I don't know what's happening. So, everybody will just have to wait and see. But I really admire what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to put my glasses on again so I can look at your tiny, tiny image. Do you know how small you are? You're less than an inch in my phone. It is so important. We have to help each other now. we just have to help each other. It's one world, and it's crying, and it's aching, and it's, from the animals to the insects to all of us. It's, yeah. So any organization that's really offering a hand up is so important. So I thank you for this opportunity of talking with you, and I really am thrilled with what you're doing. So glad to be a part of that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. You and so many others have donated their time, and we're so grateful to the whole volunteer team. All of the money goes to charity. I completely agree. It's so important to help each other. And this is a question I've been getting from friends and family. We do change the charity every year. So it's an opportunity to raise awareness for a new charity every year, and to raise that awareness, to raise funds. We're determined to meet our goal and exceed it. And so many wonderful people, including Lindsay, have been helping us to create this wonderful content for our viewers. So thank you so much for being here today, Lindsay.
It is totally my pleasure. Much good luck and good.
Thank you. We hope to see you again soon.
Okay. It's a date.
Hey everybody, Jamie Kelly here. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like it, share it, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you've not already. And be sure to check out all of the videos in the 2024 online fan convention for Otherworldly Fundraising. And be sure to check out MomBombs and support them. If you can, check out the links in the description for all the relevant information. Thank you so much. And again, this is Jamie Kelly with EAP Society and Jack Life YouTube channels. And we hope to see you back here at Otherworldly Fundraising real soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.